We have just ideal weather conditions for the Speedvision Cup here at Road Atlanta. And this weekend we are neighbors or companions to the Petit Le Mans, so we have an international flavor every day here. And the Speedvision Cup practice sessions have been fierce, as have been all the races all year long here. And the championship will be decided in about 3 hours' time. You can see the cars on the warm-ups as we go to the Old Spice starting grid. And on the pole, Terry Borchler and Andy Pilgrim, and right beside them, Joe Vardy and Tremblay will share that Mazda RX-7 Turbo. As you move down to the second row, Tonelli, Saban, Snipes and Popes are in that Mustang Cobra. And we will roll through the grid here. You can pick out your favorite drivers. And Jeremy Dale, one of the unusual things here is the number of classes that are mixed.
Well, we've got 4 classes, and there you can see in 12th position is the first of the sports cars, the BMW 328, as we go down through, and there's an intermingling here of GS cars, which is the Grand Sports. There's your first touring car in 18th position, Joe Nonamaker in the touring car, in the Mazda. And a great variety of cars here. Because we have 4 classes, we have all sorts of different equipment here. There's the first compact car in 27th, the Nowicki and Dishaw Honda. And it's great because it leaves an opportunity for any manufacturer to bring a car. There are 4 classes, so there's always a place to race in the Speedvision Cup.
And if you look down, you see so many cars. This is 2.5 miles. We'll fit 42 cars. But the track here at Road Atlanta is true international flavor this weekend. And Davy Jones, you've raced here many times. What do you think of this racetrack?
Well, Derek, they've done a lot of changes to Road Atlanta, over the years. And the biggest one here is going through turns 10 and 11. They took out the dip. They've added this left hand, right hand in where they come down over the hill. And it's made the track, since the race here in June, Speedvision Cup, it's been about 10 seconds quicker.
And that was our Toyo Tires track map, and we are about to take the green, and watch the gaggle of cars here to crash already right after the start-finish line. And it's not over yet. It is not over yet. We have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 or 9 cars involved here. I know we at least have a yellow. We may even have a red.
Well, someone got tapped midfield, actually pretty close to the front, and that set off this chain reaction. And it's very difficult in turn 12 because you come through 12 and you're just flat out on the power, and it's full acceleration all the way through 12 onto the main straightaway. So we are, in fact, full course yellow.
At least. We have an option to take the cars down through the pit lane if necessary, but we have some very, very heavily damaged racing cars here. Not all drivers out at the moment.
As they came down for the green flag, they were very tightly all bunched together, and as you can see on the track, all the skid marks. Once one car makes contact with another one and spins off to the inside, it's just a chain reaction, just a domino effect.
Look at this here, the Firebird Pontiac. That's David Brown and Michael DeFont's car we saw heavily damaged. Let's have a look at the replay here, Jeremy.
Well, we'll see. It looks like that is the 73 car, I believe. The 78 car got tapped, and that set it off. Now, that car wasn't a big factor, but now we've got cars streaming down into turn 1 that are possibly damaged. And they're going to turn into turn 1, possibly with a damaged car, maybe not even knowing it.
Yeah, turn 1 then becomes a big incident all by itself.
And there is that Firebird that set this whole thing off. I think that car, oh my God.
DeFont and David Brown in that car. And look at this. Car number 22 flies off the racetrack.
And he clips
Bill Fenton and Bob Beattie.
And he clips that Firebird turning into turn 1. So that Firebird involved. There's the 78 car. You just saw it go out of the frame, and you can see these guys are already 3 wide. That 43 Mazda already got tapped, so a very disorganized start. And I questioned whether or not that green flag should have come out in the first place, because there were cars 3 abreast as they came down through 12.
Now you see all the brake lights going on, the skid marks.
Dick Starita was in that Mazda with Will Nonamaker. He got smacked.
And you can see 3 guys up on the flag stand waving flags. They were waving green and yellows all at the same time. And I really have to question why the green flag came out with cars 3 abreast through turn 12.
The difficulty, of course, and it's hard to see from television pictures, when a crash starts at the front, you don't realize everybody jumps on the brakes all the way back. And just look at the mangled car here of Todd Lamb and Paul Dubinsky, just destroyed. Calvin, are you down there?
Yes, I am, Derek, and there's severe carnage, as you well know, on this front straightaway. A lot of fluids coming out of that Firebird there on the track, and severe damage to the Supra. And the concern now for the drivers who are trying to thread their way through there is debris on the racetrack. It is very easy to cut a tire down, pick up a puncture. When you go back to green flag racing, suddenly have to make a stop under green. Particularly for championship leader Terry Bourchiella. He was the first car through. He was very careful, very slowly worked his way around the cars there, but a major concern for all teams at the moment.
A disappointment.
I tell you what, we have a lot of seriously damaged motor cars here. Look at the angle of that Pontiac.
The weekend of preparation. You go through practice, you go through qualifying.
And then it all disappears. That was Bob Beatty's car and Bill Fenton, the number 22 Honda Del Sol. We also have Jeff Perner down in the pit lane. Jeff?
Yeah, I got Todd Lamb here as co-driver of the number 84 car that was unfortunately involved in that incident. Todd, did you get to talk to your co-driver after he came to a stop?
I haven't heard from him at all. It sounds like he's okay from what I've heard, but it's a shame. The Red Line Oil TRD Supra was running real good in practice, and we were looking forward to a good race, and unfortunately it's not going to happen.
It's unfortunate to have something like this happen at the start of the race. You know, did he say at all what happened, what caused that incident?
It looked like a couple cars got together in the front of the pack and got into the wall on the front stretch, and from there you're basically a passenger just waiting for things to happen in front of you. So it's unfortunate.
Look at that, toddlamb.com on the rear bumper of that car. Remember, we have 4 different classes here: Grand Sports, Sports, Touring, and the Compact. We'll go through the explanation of how to identify these as the afternoon goes on. But while you clean up the mess, we're going to slip away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Speedvision Cup at Road Atlanta. And Jeremy, we've watched this in slow-mo, and it really is quite interesting how it develops.
Well, it is interesting. These 2 Firebirds here, the 78 car just going out of the frame, gets together. Now, the shenanigans back here with the 43 car, but the big shenanigans are up ahead. There you go. The 78 car gets tagged by the 13 car. Now, we don't know why. The 78 car was starting on the road behind the 13 car. It looked like he made a good start, but was moving to the right, and then that bounces the 13 car out in front of this entire field. And look at the mayhem.
And just look at the mayhem behind. I mean, people have not gone over the start-finish line yet, and they still jump on the brakes here. Look at this here. Tires screech and tires smoke as they take to the grass, hoping not to get sucked in, but a lot of damage done there. Calvin, can you add?
Yeah, well, something that's also affected from this crash in the early going, Derek, is one of the other classes, the touring division, the 43 car of Nonamaker and Pate. They've been in here, severe damage to the rear end of the car, primarily body damage, but they did suffer some track link damage. They've been trying to straighten that out. They've been beating the pace car each time he's back on track, but they're concerned about the handling of that car. And as you can see right behind me, the number 41 machine, the sister car, has severe front end damage. So bad luck for this team in the early going, but more importantly for them, their championship leading car may have problems.
Yeah, Joe Nonamaker, one of the potential championship clinchers here this weekend. It's the last round of 6 races of the Speedvision Cup here. The race will run for 2 hours and 45 minutes, so it is a fairly long race.
Well, its strategy is always key in these races as we come down the hill and resume our green flag racing. Of course, single file restart after the full course yellow, but strategy always plays a big part. And you can see the BMW leading. There's the Mazda RX-7. These cars really performed very differently. Those Mazdas pretty hungry on the fuel.
And essentially these are close to the cars that you can walk into your showroom and purchase and turn into a racing car. They are not highly modified.
And look at the Mazda's
expensive racing cars.
Mazda's got the lead, Derek. The Mazda took the lead up in turn 3 there. And what I was going to say was, because these cars are hungry on fuel, the Mazda guys and the Toyota guys as well, look at that Toyota right up over that curb. they like the full course yellows because it gives them more flexibility on fuel. The BMW guys want to run green the whole time. That is their advantage.
Davey, I know you've done some of these races yourself in the past. Is it finesse that helps you be fast in a car like this?
It really is, Derek. You have to control your tires, the car. You have to be really reliable. But at the same time, you know, you don't want to make any mistakes. It's so easy to, you know, use up your brakes real fast and use up your tires, and you can't do that in a 2.5-hour race.
Because they're not racing brakes and racing tires, so you do have to be fairly careful with them. This is turn 10, the new chicane, or the new left-right turn at Road Atlanta. The famous dip is gone.
And I'll tell you, the 7 car tried to make a move there and got hung out to dry and lost that 4th position.
Tonelli and Saban are in that car.
And I'm surprised the Mazda is just driven away here in this first green flag lap. The BMW dropping back. There is the Ford Mustang up in the 3rd position as they go up the hill out of turn 1. Very steep climb here.
That's our speed shot right on the curb, but it is a dramatic uphill run. But look at Joe Verdi. Joe Verdi just stretches out in this Mazda RX-7 Turbo. Joe Verdi, we've seen him many times on television, being quite a big hero. He's well used to these type of cars. Sylvain Tremblay from Pompano Beach in Florida will be his co-driver. But right now, Joe Verdi begins to stretch out.
And Joe Verdi, he builds all his own engines, and is being quite notable for building engines for the NASCAR Busch Series.
Joe Verdi, just to give you a little hand to follow the 4 different classes here. You see the visor strip on the windshields of every car. We have 4 classes here. Now, to help you follow, the red lettering on a white background is for Grand Sports. Red lettering on white background. That's the Grand Sports you see right there. The white lettering on a red background, which is the opposites, is on the Sports division. Touring is black on a white background, and then compact white on a black background. So if you can follow that, it'll help you distinguish the different classes that we have here.
And you'll never see a Mustang in anything but the Grand Sport class. Nor will you see an RX-7, but the BMWs kind of stretch down through the field because the M3s run in Grand Sports and the 328s run in the sports class.
So Joe Verdi continues to stretch his lead here. The Mazda RX-7 Turbo looks strong in the Speedvision Cup at Road Atlanta. We are back at Road Atlanta. Joe Verdi continues to stretch ahead his lead in the Mazda RX-7 Turbo. As you look down through the top 8, the incidents still continue. See Lazaro, who is in that BMW, he's in 8th place, but have a look at this here, Jeremy.
Well, this is Bernie Cochran in the 2 car, and he comes out of turn 5 and kind of puts it up on the curb, well, quite a bit, but it starts to smoke before that, and now it really starts to pour the smoke out. And we know they replaced a gearbox in that car after the warm-up this morning, and they are presently in pit lane having a very close look at it. And Jeff Perner is down there. We're going to go down to Jeff.
Okay, Bernie Cochran sits in the number 2 Pontiac Firebird. David Murray is standing by. We're trying to get a word with him to try to find out what is going on here. Hey, David, what happened out there?
Well, we had a power steering pump failure. They came in, they thought they could fix it, but I just looked down and it's just running out like a faucet, but it's actually not the power steering pump. I think it's the actual rack itself. So it blew a seal or blew cracks, whatever it is, so it's just pouring out. In order to fix it, we have to change the whole steering rack, which will take quite a bit of time, and obviously you can't win a race by doing that. So I think we're going to park the car and come back next year.
Well, obviously, it looks like the day's over, but is there any chance of driving without power steering, or is the rack too damaged?
Well, I think it's the actual rack is damaged itself. I don't know if it'd be safe to drive as it is. So it's not just the effort of how much extra effort it would be, which would be quite a bit in these cars. You've done this yourself, so you know what it is. Mid-Ohio comes to mind. But I think that's the problem, and I think we have to change the rack if we continue. And I just don't think, the time permitting, that we actually have a chance to be competitive. Obviously, we've already lost a number of laps. The win's gone, and the team's not here just to run around. So we're here to win. If we can't win, then have a reasonable chance to do that, then there's not really much sense to come back in the middle of the race.
Thanks a lot, David. Too bad, number 2 car, it looks like they're out for the day. That's very unusual for this team. These guys have been very reliable in all the times that they've been out here at Road Atlanta and elsewhere.
And David Murray, one of the hometown favorites here because he lives in Atlanta. He did double duty this weekend because yesterday he was a contender at the Petit Le Mans in a Riley and Scott car. So David Murray, whose career has blossomed so well in the last couple of years. But here is our leading car. Joe Vardy now begins to get himself into some traffic. And you can see this thing. He still drifts and slides all the way down through turn 1.
Well, this car has big horsepower and not real big tires. And so when you pinch the car there, normally he would let the car float out, but he's going around that slower car. You pinch it a little bit and you lay the power down, and it's going to lay some rubber on the racetrack.
Something else in addition to the Drivers' Championship. Remember, we also have a Manufacturers' Championship here. And BMW have clinched that in the sports division, but Grand Sports, Touring, and Compact are all still wide open. Calvin?
Well, just an update on why that Mazda is checking out, guys. I just spoke to Andy Pilgrim, and he said, well, the Mazda ran a 35 in practice, and they backed it off to about a 36.9 in qualifying. They feel they had a turbocharged problems. They certainly anticipated the Mazda being a little quicker than the BMW, but the strategy for that M3 is to try and get through this race on one less fuel stop. They said they may need a splash, whereas the Mazda should definitely need 2 full fuel loads.
Well, Joe looks good here. He won't be Car of the Year, though, and there is an award for Car of the Year. It goes to the individual car model with the best record, however, not a manufacturer. An undefeated BMW 328IS and Honda Civic Del Sol drivers right now are tied. These boys are tied.
Now, this is Michael Culver, the green BMW here that you're seeing. This is our points leader in the sports class in this BMW 328IS. That is Michael Culver. And he is locked in a battle here with this Acura as they come through 6 and into turn 7, leading out onto the back straightaway.
He actually signaled to him to go on by on the inside. And like in any endurance race, when you have 4 different classes competing against each other, strategy plays such an important role when you have different manufacturers involved.
Look at this here. Davey battles all the way down the field here. That's one of the good things also about mixing 4 different classes.
And this is the number 17 Mustang and the number 54 BMW. And this is the give and take in this type of racing. The Mustang, obviously a much more powerful car than this M3, but the M3 has great brakes. It's a lighter car. It will handle better. And at Road Atlanta, especially in this part of the racetrack, down through the S's, handling is very, very important. But when you get out onto that back straightaway, there's nothing like a little bit of horsepower, or a lot is even better, and that Mustang will really check out.
Although we have 4 classes, parity thrives in the Speed Division Cup because through the first 5 races, a different driver has been on the Grand Sports class pole every single time. We have the number 28 BMW. That is that Michael? Yes, it is Michael Culver. Calvin, you there?
Yes, I am, Darren. It looks like they may have a tire going down. They believe they've got a right rear possibly going down. They're putting fuel in right now. They're checking out the tires as we speak. But right now, with this fuel stop, this pit stop under green, they're certainly going to fill up with fuel and take that opportunity. This means they may still be able to go the rest of the way. Obviously, a driver change would have to take place. So that probably does take that out of the equation. But he really felt he had a problem with the right rear. But these guys are looking pretty good for the championship. Obviously, their teammates, Fitzgerald, has an outside shot at the championship, but it looks like Mike Culver should take here today, providing he can keep this thing on track.
It's a 2-driver race, and it explains why he signaled the other car to go by on the inside, as we saw just moments ago.
You see Toyo tires. Every car in the field is on Toyo tires, a spec tire from Toyo, part of their tire development program. You know what? This looks like more than just a tire problem.
Yeah, they're having a very close look under that car, and maybe what they discovered was that the tire pressure on that tire was not down, and there potentially is another problem underneath this car. Calvin, can you give us some insight?
Well, certainly there seems to be a lot of smoke emanating from the back end of this car. I think they've got a loose left rear. It might be a wheel bearing or something, and they're shutting it down for now, guys. Obviously, the left rear is loose. The driver suspected that he had a right rear going down, but maybe that was being transferred across from the left side of the car. car, the problem he felt actually out on the racetrack. A lot of smoke, maybe a wheel bearing, may have leaked some oil down onto the muffler. Right now, we're just sort of like talking hypothetically, but the team are going to go to work. But these guys do need to get back out there. I think they only need like a 9th place finish or something to clinch the championship. There's a lot of cars in this division. I'm not sure whether they can clinch it just by completing the race or not.
Well, Michael Fitzgerald is his competition, so this could be a serious blow here to his challenge for the sports championship. So Michael Culver, I don't know whether they know the problem yet. Never mind fix the problem. As David Murray says, when they had their long stop, their day was done. The same might be true for Michael Culver.
Mike, obviously a problem out there on the racetrack. Initially, you thought that it was a right rear tire, possibly, but obviously indicating when you get in here, the crew has said you got a problem in the left rear with the wheel bearing and rotor.
Well, I got banged pretty hard between 10 and 11 by 49 Mazda. I don't know what the hell he was trying to do, but anyway, if anyone could fix it, it's these guys.
Obviously a nervous time for you. You really felt that the championship was in your hands. You need a 9th place finish or better, but you do need to get about 35 laps in here to actually score some points today. So obviously it's imperative that the crew gets the car fixed and gets you back on track.
Yeah, that's what our plan is. You know, there's nothing I can do about it. It's beyond my control. Once they fix it, I'll put it back in my hands.
Okay, well, Mike's just waiting. He's going to get back out there, try and get the laps completed. There's a percentage of the race total that you have to run, guys, before you score points. That's what he's looking in. Otherwise, he may narrowly miss out on this championship to his teammate, Mike Fitzgerald.
And we mentioned parity earlier. Believe it or not, Michael Culver's BMW 328 IS is ballasted heavier then you would buy that car from the showroom because of the performance of that engine of the BMW, and the whole package is just so much better than cars in that class. So it's ballasted heavier, which is most unusual, than a regular car.
And that affects everything. That affects braking, it affects acceleration, it affects handling, and of course it puts extra load on those wheel bearings, and probably he got hit, and that's what contributed to that problem, but the extra weight does not help.
And here's a car that has caused great interest in the paddock this weekend for a variety of reasons. One in particular, the number 88 car, one of the Toyota Motorsports Supra Turbos. Craig Conway is behind the wheel, but there's an engine story that I think Jeff Perner can bring us up to speed with.
Yes, there's an exciting story down here in the pits of the number 88 Toyota Supra going on this weekend. These guys lost an engine in the practice sessions, I believe. Found an engine in a junkyard, is what I was told. Put it in the car and went out there this morning and were third quickest. How does that happen?
Well, I tell you what, Toyota builds such a good motor that we can go get a low mileage engine from a junkyard, put it right in and run real well with it. We got a lot of confidence in these motors. This is the first motor problem we've had in 2 years of racing this car. It's kind of a surprise to us. That's why we don't carry a spare motor. But we ended up burning a valve for some strange reason, put the junkyard motor in, and the car's real strong now.
These guys started last and are now up to 7th place. Look for them to be very close to the front before long.
Well, if this engine goes any better, maybe the race engine won't go back in. Well, that is a surprise that you can do stuff like that. But remember what we said earlier, these cars are essentially similar to what you can buy off the showroom floor.
And it's amazing, right now they're only running about 35 seconds behind this man, Joe Vardy, who's leading this race, and they started right at the back of the field. So they've had a very good and quick run up through this field to run 7th overall right now.
And Davey, you mentioned about Joe Vardy building the Busch Grand National engines. He actually came to nationwide TV recognition at Richmond when Andy Santerre put a Vardy powered car on the pole for that Busch race. So Joe's been getting a clap on the back ever since.
I remember years ago when I used to race some Powerhawk races against him before the series became the Speedvision Cup. And he was always very, very quick in the Firebirds, the Pontiacs, whatever he drove.
Yeah, Joe can certainly hustle the car around, but I'll bet you these guys are praying for another couple of yellow flags to help them out on their fuel. And they know that they need to sprint away. This is kind of like, you know, a one-stop or a two-stop strategy in Formula One. You know you have to sprint away because you're going to have to stop. So you have no choice. You've got to run as hard as you can to build up a lead, because you know you're going to have to run one more stop.
But at the same time, Jeremy, you have to conserve your brakes, your tires, try and conserve the fuel mileage.
And that's the thing, this reconfigured Road Atlanta is much tougher on brakes with that new turn 10. And every time he runs down into turn 10, that's a very, very hard braking zone. So that is the trick to driving these cars, is to drive them quickly without using them up.
So Joe Verdi is not a championship contender in his class. It's the Grand Sports class. Remember what I told you earlier. Red lettering on the white background. If you're watching, that's not it right there. But Joe Verdi now in the thick of traffic. Sylvain Tremblay and Andy Borchler are the two contenders as number 80 disappears off into the landscape.
And this
I don't see. Oh, it's on fire. Wow.
Look at the fire.
He doesn't know that yet
calipers.
either.
Yeah, that's just in the brakes, so better to get that car moving and put that fire out.
Yes, the old brake fluid went to boiling point. That's probably why he went off the road in the first place, through lack of brakes on that left rear corner. In fact, that's fluid coming out now, isn't it?
It's leaking brake fluid, and it's lost the rear brakes, and this is, of course, the fastest part of the racetrack. Awesome job here. I mean, that's an awesome piece of driving to just kind of turn it in there, avoid the gravel trap.
The key is when a racing car gets out of control in the grass, keep it as straight as you can. Use up as much road as possible before you try and make the car do something with the steering that it just doesn't want to do. All right, at this point, he does not know the flames are about to erupt at the back of that car, and he does manage to creep his way back to the pits. His day is done. He will not get that car fixed. So Joe Verdi continues to lead at the head of the field. He is now 10.5 seconds clear of second place here at Road Atlanta. Work continues here in Road Atlanta at the Speedvision Cup. We believe this is the car of number 70, number 80, Ed Scharbom. Number 80, we saw him blow the rear brake caliper or seal out of that. The fluid came out. So their day of competitiveness is done. And Joe Verdi, as leaders often do in these events, you just seem to get away from the incidents and you seem to stay clean. Well, the start of this event, we had a huge incident. Here's a replay again, but I want to focus on the car number 84, driven by Todd Lamb, who wasn't in the car at the time, and Paul Lubinski. But Jeremy, take us through this again, because so much happens here, and the problem here is it sucked in a lot of drivers who had nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Well, and you can see shenanigans already started at the back here, but up there's the two Firebirds that get together up towards the front of the grid, but really all the victims are coming down through 12 now as this Firebird bounces off the wall and comes right back across the field. And there's that red Toyota right in the middle there that goes fully sideways, and the left front of that car really got destroyed.
Absolutely gets destroyed, and really they were just innocent bystanders. And Todd Lamb and Paul Dubinsky have had a torrid time in the last 4 races. Just bad luck, incidents, computer problems. And in the pit lane now with Jeff Perner is Paul Dubinsky.
With Paul Dubinsky. Paul, that was an incredible accident. You took quite a shot there. What was your view of what happened?
Well, it's probably more impressive from where you were. It was really crowded going down the hill. The green flag seemed to be a little bit late. All of a sudden, this big Firebird was swimming upstream against traffic, and, well, the rest is on film, I guess.
Unfortunate day, and did not get very far past start-finish line.
He was swimming upstream against the traffic, and the big bear took his paw down and smacked a lot of cars. So Paul Dubinsky, I don't know whether that car is repairable. That looked one of the worst of the crashes. And here we have side-by-side Mustangs in the braking zone.
And this is a great battle for third, the 47 car and the 21 car going into turn 10. And these two have been battling now for about the last 5 laps, been running in lockstep, these two Mustang Cobra GTs. Very, very quick on the straightaways. As you look at the Grand Sport standings there, and we're going to break these out by class as we go down through the field. These cars may not be in these positions overall as we break them out through class.
And the great thing about these events that have all these different classes, you can come in the compact class and come in at a fairly low level, and you can work your way on up depending how detailed yeah, you want to work on the car, how much horsepower you want. And it really is a good training ground because you can't muscle these cars. You have to have a certain amount of finesse to be fast.
And look at that, the little mistake there by the 47 car. In the 7, this Toyota Supra is now, this is a pass or a potential pass for position as the number 7 car gets a run coming out of turn 5 up towards 6. We saw the mistake up in turn 3, put the car right up on the apex curbing. And the 7 car now tucked in very tightly behind this Mustang as they run through turn 7.
And a lot of drivers really get their start here, or you get a lot of drivers that just like to come into this class just to get a bit of enjoyment for racing. In fact, a bit of information, there's been 2,388 drivers over the 14th season history of this series, which include 33 kart IRL drivers, 16 drivers from Winston Cup, 9 drivers from Formula One, and there's been a total of 48 women drivers involved in the series over the years.
And I know Davy Jones was one of those.
I've done 3 or 4 races. I've had a couple wins, a couple poles.
As I have myself done some races in these. And you know, a little known, who is this? What's this here? Number 60, car number 60 is off the road. Paulian Nystrom. I don't see what's wrong here, but as we watch him, a little known fact in this type of racing is back in 1989, there was a certain race at Mid-Ohio. It was in the wet, and an Eagle Talon won it. Guess who drove it? Joe Vardy and our booth colleague here, Jeremy Dale.
And I didn't know that until Dave Arnold, who works with the series, as we see the 7 car did get around the 47 car. Until Dave Arnold brought that to my attention just moments ago.
See, we've all been through the series here. We've all managed to get ourselves into some of these cars and race as part of your growth, as part of the development, and as sheer good fun.
I'm sorry, I made a mistake there. The 7 car did not get around the 47. This is the 21 car now closing in on the 7 car. So a great fight here in the for the 4th, 5th, and 6th positions in the Grand Sports class. These cars running about 24 seconds behind the lead car of Joe Vardy.
And that's Chuck Snipes there in the budget Mustang. Chuck Snipes started that car. Here's the braking zone. But look, he's made to work the hard way. Oh, he got right around him. Powered around him. Powered around him. Well, didn't even get to the braking zone to contend for that line or for that position. Over the curve that just clipped him on the way in, just clip on the way out. You hit the curves too hard, you just upset the car. It bucks and bounces, does all sorts of ugly things. So while things settle down here slightly, and as work continues in the pit lane, we're just going to slip away, but you see Joe Vardy still in control. Welcome back to the traffic jam that is Road Atlanta here, because these cars run very close together, side by side, 2 and 3 abreast at times. This is the top of the hill. They turn right and go down to the new chicane. Well, new turn 10 and turn 10A, A and B, whatever they call it.
And this is a fight for position. The 81 car, the BMW, is the leader in the sports class. The 97 car is a Grand Sports car. That's Anthony Lazzaro on board right now, leading the sports class. 11th overall, which is a great performance for this car. He just got passed by a Grand Sports car, and you would expect that going up the straightaway. But I'll bet you by the time they get back to turn 7, Lazzaro will have closed up on that Firebird.
Lazzaro and Fitzgerald are in that car together. Lazzaro, another one of the drivers doing double duty here, because he hauled a Ferrari 333 SP yesterday in the early going of the Petit Le Mans, all the way to 2nd place, had a spectacular run.
And the car rolling up behind Lazzaro now is the 71 car, which is the team car to the leading car that Joe Vardy's in, the 70 car. So Lazzaro able to pedal this car around in the midst of Grand Sports cars. Whew, got very wide of that apex. I thought he was wide of that apex, and then he drove that right across that 2nd apex coming down the hill. And didn't really miss a beat.
Never took his foot off the power. Just kept her going. Now, I don't know whether that's illegal or not. If he passed him, I bet it is.
Well, he didn't gain a position.
No.
He's lucky to, you know, still be on the racetrack.
He just lined up his perfect line, though, for the next time.
But driving a Ferrari P33 with a lot of downforce, a lot of grip yesterday, and coming into a BMW that just literally is a high roll center, just floats across the track. You can see as he's working the wheel, he was just going with the momentum of the car.
And, you know, when you make a mistake like that, you absolutely have to just bail out early and make your decision.
Here's the battle here, the number 47. This is third and fourth. Third and fourth place here. Two Ford Mustangs locked in battle here. I don't know how much of a draft they get down this straight, but they sure seem to tuck in as soon as possible.
And boy, they overhaul these slower touring cars and compact cars. There are great closing rates on the straightaway with these very powerful Grand Sports cars.
John Kohler and Gary Smith were down to drive this car, joined by Maxwell. You see the curb is actually a rumble strip. It's not a high curb that you can actually crash over the top and maybe do damage. It is that good rumble strip system.
But when you drive over that rumble strip, it really rattles and shakes the car, and it's not something that you want to do over a 2 or 3 hour period each and every lap.
Now, car number 7 is back in the mix. There it is right there. There it is right there. Number 7, the Tonelli and Saban car in Grand Sport. Here he is. He is another story that we've been following here. Calvin, you have more on that?
Having problems over the weekend, Derek, and a female spectator was watching their car with admiration in the paddock, and they got chatting and realized that she drove the same car. They asked her permission to have her car down in the paddock just in case they needed spares. So that car's been up on jack stands all weekend. They've been stealing parts of it gradually, so I'm not sure if it's going to be ready to roll when this race is over tonight and she can get that thing home. And just an update on the 28 car. Mike Culver, their car has been in the pits for about 30 minutes or so now, but they did replace that rear wheel bearing and rotor. He's back on track as he tries to grasp those final championship points.
That's how you win championships.
Jeremy, you saw that car.
I've been
That's
driving,
not a lie.
I've been driving in and out of the paddock the last couple of days, and I've seen this red Toyota Supra up on jack stands, and I was wondering if someone was pillaging parts from this car.
She's probably delighted because she's having her tires rotated.
I hope she's not in a hurry home, because by the time they started this race, there was a lot of pieces gone from that lady's car. Joe Nonamaker, we saw him in trouble earlier. There he is. They got his car fixed. He is back out. That's in the Mazda RX-6. The 28 car is back out. Michael Culver, see him there on the right-hand side of the screen. So they obviously fixed whatever the problem was on the left rear of that BMW. There he is right there, Michael Culver. And now remember, Michael was in contention for the points lead of the championship after 5 races in that BMW 328 IS. He's a long way back now, though, so maybe no longer in contention. Back at Road Atlanta, this is a battle that has gone on for the last 2 or 3 laps. That is John Kohler now slides down the inside of the number 21 car. Chuck Snipes is behind the wheel of that. This has gone on for lap after lap, swapping positions.
And it would seem these cars, both being Ford Mustangs, are very equal. And they have been swapping these positions.
Look at the drift. Look at John Kohler drift down the bottom of the S's.
And that is that same apex that we saw Lazaro get wide of, and we saw what happened to Lazaro wide of that apex. And that has affected his exit speed out of turn 5 going up to 6.
And you see Snipes goes way over the top of the curbs, much wider on the exit of turn 5. This is the braking zone for 6 and 7, and then the drag race starts all the way downhill to the new turn 10.
And both of those cars drifting out over that curb. Big horsepower in these cars, and they've got a live rear axle, so they, you know, it's tough to put power down. You really have to modulate the throttle with these big V8s.
You can see our overall standings, so you can just follow for your favorite driver, favorite car, favorite name as we watch this battle continue here. John Kohler still holds the advantage. The braking zones are so hard on these heavy cars, but meanwhile, look at Joe go. Look at Joe go. Now, we think he is within about 5 minutes of a pit stop. Is that right?
Well, we had the yellow at the beginning, so it's hard for us to judge exactly. Oh,
It's a force.
that is the 74 car. Okay, that is the car that was just in the pit lane, sitting 19th overall, but it ran its first pit stop just moments ago, came out of the pits and got involved with a slower car going up through turn 1.
The leader in the sports division is in. He is in the pit lane, and Calvin is there.
Anthony Lazaro jumps out, turns it over to Mike Fitzgerald. The crew goes to work. They got fueling going on the right-hand side, obviously. They're just checking the tires. Everything seems okay. They are looking at the right front, though. There may have been a concern there. They're looking underneath the car. Everything looks okay. They're just checking out the shock towers. So maybe Anthony reported he felt a problem in the front end of the car. The crew have not found anything wrong. They're just fueling it. Looks like they're going to stay on the same tires. Anthony helps Mike get strapped in. These guys still have an outside shot at the championship for Fitzgerald here. His teammate is back on course, as we've documented, but several laps down, and he does need to complete over 30 laps, as we've mentioned, to score points today.
Lazaro has had such a great season this year in the Toyota Atlantic Series. Won the last race. I think he won 3 of the last 4. I know he won a lot of them. Front runner all the time in that MCI Cal Wells team. Brake dust still comes out from underneath. But Lazaro, as we mentioned earlier, just so good yesterday in the Petit Le Mans.
Great professionalism on that team. I don't know if you noticed, but they blocked the left front with a little block so the drivers could get out, leave the car in neutral, and not worry about the car rolling away while they were doing their driver change. Small details like that really do make a difference. So they continue after their stop. Lazaro was running, and we saw earlier he was up in the thick of it with the Grand Sports cars as Fitzgerald takes over.
Now, the number 6 Honda Del Sol car was the quickest of the compact cars. He is in the pits. That is Nowicki and Dishwa's car. Calvin, you there?
Well, Dishaw jumped out, and it's Nowicki in here, and he looks like he's going to clinch this championship here today. He's really had a great season. He brought on Dishaw after a couple of races, and they've had a lot of success. Looks like a routine stop. They obviously just got enough laps in to get Dishaw points today, and now he's turned it over so Nowicki can hopefully clinch the championship.
Nothing like filling your own fuel.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, the fuel runs into these cars so slowly, and when you're in the car and you're waiting for them to fuel it, this just seems like an eternity.
It does. When you watch it on television, waiting for them to leave, it seems like an eternity. Meanwhile, that is the 74 car. We saw him go off the road earlier, right in front of Alan Himes and Paul Moorcones from Highland. That is a Mazda Miata. So here's a good look up the pit straight. The left side was the Petit Le Mans pits as of yesterday. The right side is the old pit lane, which has also been cleaned up. Is that the 97 car down the inside? Yes, it is. Jeff England and Joe Kent. They are in 8th place in the 97 car. They're shown as 1 lap down. And I don't think they've made their pit stop yet.
They were the ones that got involved in the start. They got bumped from the rear. They started the bit of the change reaction, but they seem like they had some duct tape on the front end, and they're good to go.
So, as Joe Vardy, there he is, makes his way through traffic and continues at the front. We'll be back. Back to Road Atlanta now. At the start, we saw all the cars get involved in this incident. This was one of them, but look at the state of this car. That Joe Nonamaker still goes out and wants to get involved and compete. Look at the right rear off the ground. The camber on the left rear has severe positive camber, but the number 43 car, the Mazda MX-6, does not want to stay in the pits, nor does Uncle Joe.
Well, this is the big championship fight, so, you know, they've got to run what they've got, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yes, touring car class, the touring class.
And you start the race knowing exactly where the car's at balance-wise, and then when you have to get into a car that's ill-handling, it really shows the driver capability of being able to bring that home for a championship point.
Exactly. Now, something else that we're going to follow as we watch Joe Vardy. Sylvain Tremblay is going to jump into this car. Now, I don't think he's as quick as Joe Vardy. I don't know whether many people are as quick as Joe Vardy in a car like this. So maybe the cushion of a lead Jeremy that he has now may not be that big a cushion.
Well, no, he's almost 29 seconds. What is surprising that they have been able to run a very long time on this first tank of fuel, and I'm a little bit surprised by that. While we were away at break, the BMW that was running in second position, the 72 car of Borcheller and Pilgrim, already stopped. And that was very surprising that that car had to stop before this Mazda.
And Joe lost a lot of time down through turns 11 and 12 there because he had to stay behind Joe Nonamaker. I mean, there was no chance. You couldn't drive around and you couldn't drive over the top of him. So he lost probably 2 seconds on that lap alone right there.
So the big question is, when will they stop for fuel, and how much fuel does this car hold? Because it really has run quite a long time on this first tank of fuel.
And you can run longer in the first tank than you can do the second tank, which I found surprising. Calvin?
Yeah, I'm waiting by for the 70 car a bit, but just a thought, guys. I'm thinking that maybe Borcheller and Pilgrim, obviously they need a 9th place finish or better to clinch the championship. But remember, guys, that both drivers have to score a certain percentage of the lap. So Terry's stint is already done. They probably wanted to get him out and get Pilgrim in case that car hits trouble later in the going. Otherwise, it would have given the championship with Terry, with Pilgrim maybe not getting enough laps in.
Yeah, that is a good point. You do have to do a certain number of laps to be eligible to take the points away. So just in case anything happened to that car, they drag it in early, do a driver change, and then they're actually the err on the side of safety rather than risk.
And there is Michael Culver. That was the car early on that had some serious left rear bearing problems in the upright and the brake disc as well. And that car right now sits in 30th position, 16 laps down from the overall leader.
And carries ballast. A lot of ballast.
So we're just moving around a little bit and looking at some different cars here. That's the 71 car. That is the team car to the lead car. And this is more cars here in the Grand Sports division.
David Shep and Bob Towery down to drive that car.
Now this Mazda, you can no longer actually buy this car at the dealership.
And it looks small compared to the muscle of the Mustang there.
So the question is, how much longer will these guys be racing these cars, these RX-7s, which are very effective race cars, but Mazda has kind of bowed out of the sports car category as far as the RX-7 is concerned. And so this is not a car that you can buy anymore, but it's such a good race car, these guys want to continue on with it in this championship.
Another battle here with the number 57 right in the middle of it here, and car number 81. Now look at the car number 57. This is interesting here, number 57, because not only because the drivers, two young guns, Andy Daly and Mike Johnson, but we believe that has a direct factory connection.
Well, this is the car, the Z3, that is built in Spartanburg, which is not far from Road Atlanta. And it is partially sponsored by the plant. So this is a bit of a homegrown effort. And even though they're going BMW up against BMW here, and that is the 6-cylinder Z3, the 2.8. So these cars have the same power plant, but they're very different cars.
And here's a drag race down to turn 6. BMW manufacturing plant number 10 is listed down as the sponsor of that Z3. Andy Lally and Mike Johnson, two of the young potential stars of the future of American motor racing. Jeff England and Joe Kent are partners in this car here. It's a Pontiac Firebird. You see again in the Grand Sport. See the windscreen visor strip at the top. 4 different classes to try and make it easier for the spectators. You see the white or the red lettering on the white background. Red lettering, white background denotes the Grand Sport as opposed to sports, touring, and compact.
And this battle here, this is the touring battle. These cars, 12th and 13th overall, but this is a battle for position in the touring class. And look at these guys practically bump drafting.
Bob Endicott and Peter Schwartz are in that car number 40. And Bill Pate and Joe Nonamaker, believe it or not, was listed in car 49.
And that is very close racing between the Acura there and the Mazda. And boy, that Acura very good on the brakes as they come into turn 10, and the Mazda forced to use tons of curbing there at that first apex to try and roll a bunch of speed through the first apex there.
It's actually Shane Lewis in that car number 49 with Bill Pate. So we are just over halfway and lots more to come.